What's up, everybody? Back at it again with another episode of the Jungle Podcast. I myself, Daniel Kahn, Chris Lynch, and Brian Trin. We're back at it with, talking about what's current today. And I really wanted to start off by talking about the events that happened yesterday at the Capitol building.
The disgraceful events.
The disgraceful events.
Yes.
And first and foremost, wanted to start off by telling everyone what happened yesterday, regardless of whether you're Democrat, Republican, we need to put all of that stuff aside, because what happened yesterday wasn't about parties. It was about being American. And it was very, very un-American what happened yesterday. I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts, Brian and Chris, on yesterday.
I've been thinking a lot about the historical relevancy that this will play and the consequences for America moving forward within the next decade or so. This is definitely going to be a very pivotal event, I feel.
I have to agree with both of you. I feel like this was a moment that I didn't think this would happen. I didn't think that people will resort to this type of actions. And I don't know, it's just very shocking to everyone, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I totally think that the events of yesterday, they are an example of extremism and terrorism at its finest. We can't sugarcoat things. I don't think that it's okay to call them protesters or rioters or any of that. No, they were terrorists.
Insurrectionists.
Yeah. And I just think that we, as a country, need to come together and understand this, because guess what? Regardless of you voting for Donald Trump or for Joe Biden, what's facts is facts. Joe Biden will be our next president. And whether you're okay with that or not, this is the thing about democracy, is that sometimes maybe your favorite candidate doesn't win. And as of yesterday, I can tell that a lot of people just don't. What Donald Trump's reaction to that, honestly, was awful, considering there was none. Like, no sort of remorse for people who, during the Black Lives Matter movement, who got tear gas, all that kind of stuff. And he has the audacity to be like, you guys are rioters, you guys are criminals, all this kind of stuff. But then we go back and we see this happening, and it's like, oh, well, I love all of you. Like,
Gets a free pass when it's his.
Exactly. And this is kind of like, the juxtaposition, the irony in this, like Donald Trump, and most of us can say that he was against the Black Lives Matter movement, and he was, riding for his team, I guess the Proud Boys, you could call them. And just seeing that, like he's saying, be it Black Lives Matter movement, we're like getting kind of that stereotype that we're savages, we are not American, that we're doing things wrong, while his actual side was going against democracy. And I feel like there was a boundary that they crossed, and the Black Lives Matter movement didn't cross. And one of the questions that I wanted to ask everyone is like, why was there no police there to, protect everyone? Like, everyone knew in January 6th that they were going to come. Like, Trump said it, like, they're going to come to the Capitol building and, protest peacefully, allegedly, but they didn't. They were domestic terrorists all along.
I think that, with everyone knowing, I think that a lot of people just didn't really pay attention to it. And if they did pay attention to it, dude, like, anyone who has been to the Capitol building on a regular day understands that there's snipers on those on the rooftops 24/7.
Yeah.
There's no way that anyone can just walk in there as if they're going through like a Daisy, like La La Land type deal, and just be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna walk in and sit in the VP's. Like, no, like there's no way that can happen.
And it's kind of funny because, like, I'm pretty sure we all agree in this room, if there were black people, if those were
they'd be shot.
It will be a massacre. Like, it will be a straight up massacre. It will go down as one of the worst days in American history. It's gonna go down as one of the most racist things that has happened if black people were there, because they would have gotten all shot. They would have gotten all shot. So, to say the least, the outcome was the best that we could hope for. Because, like, I know that only one person died, but if it was black,
Four people.
four
apparently.
people died.
Yeah,
Four people
four.
died. It would have been like 20 people dead if they were black.
I mean, honestly, I probably think it would have been more than that, and you definitely would have seen a lot heavier of a military presence in there too. And that's just the reality of things. There's a clear double standard with all that kind of stuff. Brian, I'm not sure what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, I'm just still like, I got up at like 12 noon yesterday, and I go outside to take my smoke break, and I hear on the news that this is going on, and then you turn on the TV to see that footage of them scaling the walls and all. It looks like something out of like back in the early days of the Iraq War. Like they were like storming
it looks
embassies.
like COD
and
zombies, Black Ops zombies.
it doesn't-
It's like Kino der Toten. You know, once you like, you know, turn on the power and everything, you just got those like creepy crawlers and all that kind of stuff.
It
like
does not look like it belongs in America. Like you would have never suspected that. You know.
It was crazy. It was crazy. But it is what it is. I feel like it needed to happen.
I don't think it is what it is though, because why is it that people, extremists, clearly, are allowed to do that, and the police are like, oh, here you go, we don't want to disturb you. But then at the same time, you go to New York City, everything's boarded up, you have police on every corner, you have the National Guard there, and people are kind of just standing around, not really, like, they're just chanting, they're kind of really fighting for their rights.
And why do you think that it happened like that? In my opinion, I think it was because the majority, and I'm pretty sure they were all. I'm not trying to like, you know, stereotype anyone, but most of them were white. They were not black. And I'm not trying to bring the race thing, but I kind of have to. But I feel like if there were black people, they would have gotten shot. And just because they were white people and they were taking pictures, and I guess since the Blue Lives Matter was riding on one side, Trump's side, they let it slide.
Okay, so you think it's more of like a race and political issue as to why security wasn't as prevalent?
Exactly. I really do think so.
And then,
I definitely think that this is an example of white privilege. I do
Yeah.
think that because, you know,
it's clear as day. Like you see the mirror image of like protesters facing off against what little security there was
Yeah.
there. Sorry, not protesters, but you know, terrorists.
terrorists.
Yeah,
Terrorists.
and the protesters during the summer getting like maced and shot with rubber bullets by cops. Like
I think I
do
maybe
it.
saw one video of one woman getting maced at the
Maced.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
mace.
it was. I think we saw the same video of the woman like, I was just trying to step in or something.
Yeah,
like that.
she's like, I was just trying to go into the cap. Like,
It was a
who gave
revolution.
you that right?
It was. He said it was a revolution. This woman, like, there's no revolution here. The revolution happened back in 1776, like when we were trying to get our independence. Like, there's no revolution. We already have the best established democracy that we have in the whole entire world. What are you trying to do? You're trying to ruin it.
I mean, Cory Booker brought up a really good point regarding the last time that something like this has happened was the War of 1812,
Yeah.
where where people literally burned down the White House. And so, obviously, two different buildings, but you see that history tends to repeat itself. And unfortunately, the time has come where it has.
But it's crazy that within the last, 150 years or so, the only two invasions of America have been, Pearl Harbor and 9/11?
Yeah.
As attacks on, the United States as a whole.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they didn't even manage to get close to anything, federal, besides the Pentagon during 9/11, but,
Yeah.
to actually go into the very symbol.
And it's
Of American
people
democracy.
who claim that they love America.
Yes.
They do not love America.
And I'm
they
like-
are not patriots.
I
They are not
don't
patriotic. That was the
qualify
lead-
them.
Like, just a quick example.
They're
Like,
straight nut jobs. These people believe in,
I just
moon
want to make
colonies.
sure that our audience are listening. Like, if you have a problem with Kaepernick kneeling, then we have a big problem, because what just happened, if you don't have a problem with that, we really have serious problem in this country.
yes.
I don't like to compare people to Hitler a lot of the time, and I try and avoid it.
What you're
a
gonna
lot.
do?
But I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm gonna do it, because this is what happens when people blindly accept authority and worship a person.
Yes.
And so here's the thing, right? People who worship Donald Trump, these are the people that are rushing the Capitol building. Republicans who stand with the Republican Party don't agree with this. And I think that's a clear distinction we have to make. Just as, you have people who align with the Democratic Party, but don't agree with when acts of terror are done in like saying like, oh, we align with we're the alt left, alt left, alt right. Neither one is okay, right?
They don't represent the parties.
They
as
don't
a whole.
represent the parties. That's
They're
what
not
I'm trying
American.
to say.
Yeah.
And so now when we're looking at this, it's kind of like, well, what do we do moving forward?
I think honestly, especially with our last talk about China and the future of America in regards to foreign policy, this is definitely, and please excuse my language, but this is kind of a shit stain on American reputation.
Oh, definitely.
Because
sure.
Definitely.
anything that we try and do from now on in terms of foreign policy can't be justified when this is happening in our capital in 2021.
Someone who said "Make America Great Again" and was all about domestic policy and
Like,
Completely just...
sorry to
Yeah.
say, but shat on
Yeah.
America
Yeah,
pretty much.
pretty much.
within a day.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure we all can agree about the Capitol building. Well, it's just not an American thing. They were domestic terrorists. I feel like they should be treated like domestic terrorists.
They should face consequences to the full extent of the
It should
law.
be treason. That's
should
what it
be.
is.
No,
it
yes.
should be 100%.
It should be treason. My thing is, what I wanted to talk about is like, I want to talk about a little bit more in depth in this section. It's like the difference between the Trump supporters, the extremes, and like the left that is supposed to extreme. And I think my point of view is like the left has, I believe they have boundaries. They have more boundaries than Trump supporters, because I feel like they wouldn't, I hope to believe they will never storm a Capitol building like that.
I think it's fully possible that it could have happened, but they would have never actually done as much damage as the alt-right would have done.
No, like they would have been like armed with guns. They would been, the military was there. Just look
Yeah,
at the,
they would have
look-
never gotten in if it
when
had
Trump
been
was
the
going
alt-left.
out there just to take a picture with the Bible, which they didn't make, to this day, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, they have military officers everywhere and nobody was doing anything. They were just sitting down and just protesting peacefully. But when Trump supporters come to the Capitol building to storm it and break property and maybe even look at secret documents, because there could have been documents there, and you just let them in. Let's just let them walk through.
I think a clear distinction to make, right, is that whether you're vandalizing statues, vandalizing memorials, or rushing a Capitol building and, stealing from there and all that, neither one is okay.
Mm-mm.
But
No.
when you come in with full force, armed to the teeth, saying that we're fighting for our America, we're trying to save our America, then that doesn't involve you, ruining federal property and disrupting a transfer of power.
I just hope the media gets it right. They are domestic terrorists. I hope somebody does something and, finds everyone that did something wrong and prosecutes them to the extent of the law. That's all I'm hoping for.
On a lighter note, I do honestly believe that the events of yesterday in some way united Americans quite a bit in seeing what exactly is wrong with our country.
I think it's brought out a sense of unity in terms of seeing, wow, people are really crazy.
Yes.
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 Genuinely. And it's, like you said, it allows for conversation now amongst moderates like all of us. And it allows for conversation to be had about, well, what do we do in a bipartisan way to keep moving forward? I think that now we all understand that anyone who supports Trump for Trump is completely different than someone who supports Trump for, or supports a Republican Party.
Republican Party.
Don't associate with Trump.
Yes.
Because Trump is not the Republican Party.
Oh no, definitely no. I don't think he ever will be again.
No, I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not.
Any other thoughts on this?
I just like what was it? The senators, that even the Republican senators were like, I pray that Trump has won or would have won, and they hope for it, but they conceded the loss. Like they were like, Biden won. Like there's nothing else that we can do out here. Even the Republican senators, and I love, especially if you watch it, I think it was South Carolina senator. He was the perfect example of a person who was like, I hoped and I prayed Trump won, but he didn't, and Biden won. And I hope people who are listening to me understand it.
Which is how it should have been for the last 4 years.
It should have been like.
I think that, while all of this is happening, I just wanted to ask you guys, in the future with now Biden as president, what kind of impact do you think the country's views are going to have on us in terms of looking in and being like, wow, this country really is against each other?
In terms of our foreign allies, I would hope that the Biden
will strengthen those allies.
Yes, will strengthen our previous connections with our allies. However, knowing what we know about foreign relations, especially with countries that do not align with our policies, like I said before, this event is a very clear and open opportunity for the enemies of America to dig their way in.
Take advantage. Sure.
So we definitely, we can come out of this in either two ways. A completely broken America that cannot be repaired, which, God forbid, that ever happens.
Or
we come out of this back to being what true Americans have always been, and that is a United
States,
yeah.
Fighting for what's right rather than our own selfish interests. Because, there was a time where we did do that.
Yes.
And, we, regardless of what other countries were doing, we fought for what we believed in, and we fought for humans' inalienable rights, whether that be domestically or abroad. But now it just seems like we're so, how like I like to compare America like a body. You can't keep focusing on other countries who are their own separate bodies when you have such a war going on in your own heart.
I like that.
I agree with that.
That's a good analogy.
And we need to figure it out, because this is not the way. This is definitely not the way.
I think, going into the future, hopefully with Biden and his administration, I think that they'll do good. I think that, people who have shat on Biden for a lot of reasons, personal reasons, whatever it may be, will come to understand that he is not the socialist, person that the alt-right makes him out to be and all that kind of stuff. He definitely is moderate. And
I think he's moderate.
100%. People forget he's a Republican.
Yeah.
But it's more like that's why Obama chose him, right? And now that he's running for the Democratic Party, that doesn't mean he doesn't hold Republican values. It just means that he's, realigning himself. And I think that that's a really good mindset to have. And so from here on out, I see bipartisanship for years to come, hopefully.
We can all hope.
All right, guys. So that's all we have for today. Thank you guys for joining in. This has been the Jungle Podcast. Peace out.